All right, guys. So we've talked a little bit about the red light, green light, yellow light principle in terms of managing your injuries. It's really important to understand that concept. If you haven't watched that video yet, I would certainly encourage you to do so. One of the things that I talked about in that video was this green light. And when you have a green light, that you can go full steam ahead. Well, that's not entirely true. Because we want to be a little bit pragmatic with our progressions. I'll give you a super common example. We get runners into our clinic all the time, and very often those runners come with chronic tendinopathies, chronic tendon disorders that are painful and limiting their ability to continue with running or their ability to continue running at the level in which they would desire. Well, when we start asking them questions about how the injury started, what did they do about the injury when they had it, how have they managed it over the last 7 years, which can be the case, the story often goes like this. Well, you see, I injured my tendon on this run. I was training for a marathon, and I started to get this Achilles tendon pain. I kind of pushed through. I was able to get the marathon done, but it was pretty irritated afterwards, so I took 6 weeks off. And then I'll say, well, what did you do for treatment? And they say, well, I did some physio, they did some ultrasound, and yeah, we did a little bit of exercise, but yeah, then it just continued to hurt. And then I'll say, well, hold on, how did you go back? Like after that 6 weeks, so you did some treatment, you took some rest, you calmed things down, and then you went back and it continued to hurt. But how did you go back? And they'd be like, oh, well, I went back and I started training 5Ks. I'd be like, whoa, hold on. Are you telling me you went from 0 to 5K in like no time at all? Well, yeah, I mean, 5K is no big deal to me. I'm a marathoner, and 5K is nothing. Here's the thing, guys. A 5K is not nothing to an injured tendon that just had 6 weeks off. We know that tendon adaptation happens relatively quickly. And you can lose tendon adaptation, the ability to tolerate load, in about 6 weeks. It only takes about 6 weeks to lose some of that structural and mechanical integrity of the tendon that allows you to perform that activity of running. So 5 kilometers, let's say you're a good runner and you have relatively good technique, meaning that you're hitting at about 180 strides per minute. That's 90 strides per leg. You're a good runner, so you run a 5K in 20 minutes. Well, that's 90 strides per minute for 20 minutes. That's 1,800 foot strikes. So you've just taken this well-rested tendon that's now calmed down from this irritable episode, this inflammatory episode from an overloading injury, and you've gone from 0 to 1,800 foot strikes in one session. That is not a pragmatic progression into loading a tendon in the course of rehabilitation. So here's the thing, guys. When we start any endeavor back from an injury, we don't want to just barge full steam ahead and start cranking out the weights or cranking out miles just because that's what we used to do. What we want to do is find a pragmatic starting point, some identifiable block that we know we can tolerate, and then in a stepwise fashion, I call them salami slices because they're thin slices, we slowly build the tolerance to that activity that was previously provoking to your pre-injury status. So in the runner's example, my preference is, first of all, if possible, don't stop walking. If you normally run 3 days a week and you're out there from anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour, well, if you can still walk 3 days a week for 42 minutes to an hour, get out there and walk 40 minutes to an hour. Use the time that you were using for running to continue walking, and if possible, perhaps some low-grade hiking. In Victoria, I'm talking like Thetis Lake, where there's some moderate hills, there's some gradation, it's not just a simple flat ground. So if you had, say, an Achilles tendon problem, you're applying some load into that tendon, but not so much load as to provoke more aggravation, more inflammation, more sensitivity. You continue to walk through that 6 weeks of rest, and while you're going through that 6 weeks of rest, even though you're relatively resting that tendon, you're still exercising whole body. You might be on the bike. I would highly encourage you that you consider strength training. You could do squats, you could do step-ups, you could do some isometric loading in a heel raise, you could do isometric loading in a single leg heel raise, but you're trying to maintain general fitness and local loading tolerance of your Achilles tendon in this example, so that you don't completely de-adapt that tendon to tolerating load. And then once that irritable phase is gone, once you're over it and things are pretty calm, you're walking well, there's no discomfort, there's really no pain to say, let's start pumping in some running intervals to your walking sessions. So you're still walking 3 days a week, but now you're going to go for that 20-minute walk. Now you're going to do 1 minute run, 5 minutes walking, 1 minute running. You finish out your hour incorporating these 1 minute intervals every 5 minutes. So you might get 5 to 10 minutes of running within that 1 hour walk. You measure your progress. Is that a red light, yellow light, or green light? If it's a green light, take a step forward. If it's a yellow light, you know you tapped your threshold. You know you're at your near tolerance. Don't go past it. Stay on that level. You don't have to regress if it's a yellow light, but you stay on that level. You repeat it until that yellow light becomes a green light. When it becomes a green light, you move forward. You add time, you add volume, you add intensity, you add load. And then you might at some point tap into a little bit of a yellow again. If you do, you pause. You stay at that yellow loading zone, whether that's miles or intensity or weights that you're pushing in a gym, and you wait until it becomes a green light again. Now, if you are tapping into a yellow, it should not be yellow for more than a week or two max. If you're tapping into yellows and they're not going into green, it means you're doing too much. You're very likely sensitizing that injury and maintaining or perpetuating that inflammation, that irritation in that tissue. You need to take a step back, reassess, reevaluate, and then try to tap back into that green zone so you can adequately build load tolerance, build fitness, build stamina, and whatever injury you're talking about. This could be a shoulder, it could be an Achilles tendon for a runner, it could be a low back injury in a weightlifter. So I hope that helps, guys. I hope that helps you understand our system of progressions, because I got to be honest, a lot of chronic injuries out there could have been avoided if we took early interventions and had pragmatic approaches to building load tolerance. I hope you enjoyed the video and have a great day.